somewhere along the way, sex positivity has become do whatever you want and do whatever makes men comfortable. So today we are unpacking sex positivity, power, and why pleasure should not or does not exist outside of your politics. So is sex positivity getting a little too patriarchal? Let's get right into it.
Warning, listening to us
might radicalize you.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Unholy Feminists, and as always it's me, Gail, and my always gorgeous host, Kat. Hi Kat, how you doing?
Hi Gail, I'm just alive. It has not been great 3 months of 2026, but how are you?
Hanging in there. It hasn't been amazing either. I feel very blue a lot of the days. But yeah, I'm also hanging in there with life and work and dealing with men ill and all that.
Ew.
Right.
Um, I think I actually needed to take a break from social media. I think I still do actually, because my newsfeed was bombarded with a lot of political things, and I have seen a lot of ICE videos to the point where I actually had a nightmare that ICE was arresting me. So yeah, I had a nightmare a few days ago that ICE was arresting me. So it has not been great mental health
Yeah,
wise.
you definitely need a break, even if it's just for 3 days or 2 days or something. You need to totally shut out social media. You can, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I can't. I would like to. It's just that my
Oh,
jobs depend on social media a lot,
yeah,
right? We create content. I create a lot of content, and a lot of aspects of my job requires me to be on social
that's true.
media. So I really would hope that one day I can just stop all of this. I can go right in a cottage in the woods somewhere and just stay away from social media. Not forever, but for some time.
I perfectly get that. Wait, you can't you even do that for a weekend or a Saturday or a
I
Sunday, just
mean,
one day? I know it's not enough, but I feel like little drops, right?
yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't check social media a lot on the weekends. I try to schedule my videos before the weekend is up, before the weekend arrives, because my video usually gets out on the
Okay.
weekend. So I try to publish it. I try to schedule it before then so that I don't have to be on social media. But sometimes I still have to post it on the weekend because editing takes time and all that.
Yeah.
Life.
Most Yeah, I understand. We can't always get what we want.
Yeah, because we're not billionaires and we're not men.
Yeah, we are not billionaires. We are not white men. We are not men in general. So
We're not
yeah,
rich
that's
white men. So
mm,
unfortunately, the world does not revolve around us.
unfortunately yes. So anyway, getting right into our topic, I think I saw there's this feminist cater on TikTok. I always forget her
Hmm.
name. That I come across her videos a lot, and she had a particular video on sex positivity where she was saying she's so radical to the point that she does not support sex positivity as like a tenet in feminism, because for her she does think that it crosses a line for a lot of people, and people do not know how to build sex positivity in their personal lives and in how they relate to other people, so she does not support it. And it got me thinking, because I feel like for us, even putting aside like our ideologies and what we believe in, I know we can't put it aside, but just in case we are doing that, what we do does not permit us not to be sex positive. because how are we going to be against sex positivity and advocate for women's reproductive rights? Do you get it? So
Yeah.
I think it got me thinking, where do we draw the line? And maybe a lot of people can also benefit from if we have this conversation on what exactly sex positivity is and how it relates to feminism as a whole. I feel like it's usually intersectional feminists who are like mostly also sex positive. So since you are like my guru, what is sex positivity, and in your opinion, how does it relate to feminism?
For me, sex positivity is viewing sex from a positive lens rather than from a shameful, rather than from a like a secretive lens
Yeah.
where women were actually being taught to look at it for so long. Things like, oh, you shouldn't touch your own vulva. You shouldn't look at your vulva. You shouldn't look at your genitals because it's something to be shameful of. This is
Yeah.
something that I have talked a lot. I've talked a bit about, but in Cambodia, some Cambodian women have never seen their own vulva simply because they feel like it's a dirty thing. It's
Yeah.
something that's shameful. It's something that's secretive. The word itself for genitals is a location that is secretive, a location that is shaming, that is shameful. So the word that is being used itself indicates that, okay, this is something that you shouldn't explore. This is a part of your body that makes you dirty. So sex positivity is deconstructing that idea, unlearning that idea, and accepting that our body is beautiful, that our genitals are more than a reproductive organ. It's about bringing
Yeah.
us pleasure. It's about being a part of ourselves. So sex positivity is not only about sex, right? It's about viewing anything sex related in a positive way, including menstruation. It's
Yeah.
about saying that menstruation is a natural part of your body. It's nothing to be shameful of, that period blood, menstrual blood is not dirty. Because there is a misconception that menstrual blood is dirty blood, or that menstrual blood is
Yes.
used in love spells. I'm not sure in Ghana, but in Cambodia, some people believe that if you put menstrual blood in a man's food, then you're putting a love spell on him. So deconstructing all of that idea. It's not just about, oh, you need to be okay with having sex, you need to be liberated, you need to enjoy having
Mm.
sex. It's about more than that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, because a lot of times I feel like when people say they don't support sex positivity, a lot of the explanations they give are usually just centered on the act of sex, and that's it. They do not look at anything else besides, the act of sex. And even with that, they never go for, the fact that in sex positivity, women have autonomy to decide whether and if they actually want to engage in sex. When people are bashing sex positivity, it's always like about like the people who choose to do it, albeit like indiscriminately, of course, but it's never about like the people on the other side, like asexuals and people who just decide to be celibate and all that. So I love your angle. I love your definition. And yeah, I think, I mean, I feel the same way. The explanation you give, I feel the same way, that people should look at sex from a place that is not shameful, and from a place that comes with autonomy and consent, and them knowing that the decision they are making is something they actually want to do, not something they are being coerced or forced into. So yeah, I perfectly agree with you. However, again, I think there's been a lot of talk about, sex positivity intertwining with choice feminism. So when does sex positivity, as you defined it, when does it stop serving women as a whole, and when should feminists start maybe side eyeing feminism? Like,
I think sex positivity can become problematic. And I do want to go back a little bit on what you were saying. Sex positivity is not just about enjoying sex, it's also about enjoying not having sex as well, about enjoying not having sex with a partner, because the act of masturbation itself is also part of sex positivity. So it's an act of self love and self exploration. Asexuality is also part of sex positivity, right? It's about accepting that that's what your body needs, which is not having sex, right? So it's about choices. So going back to your question about choice feminism, about how, in which case sex positivity can veer into a problematic territory. I think the problem is when it's framed from a male centered perspective. So, for example, let's say some people think that dark romance, some really gritty dark romance is sex positive just because I'm not hear me out, hear me out. I know you're a dark romance girly. So I think that some people think that sex positivity is about devouring as much sex, as gritty as as gritty, as dark as possible, and that is sex positivity. It's about embracing every aspect of that. But of course, if you center men around it, if you take away everything else that it's about deconstructing, it's about the unlearning, it's about the journey of understanding all of these problematic things about what is kink and what is fantasy, what is fetish, and when is it not a fetish. So, for example, if a young woman who has not unlearned and unpacked a lot of patriarchal thinking, a lot of misogynistic thinking, and then they go into dark romance and then they consume non-con and dub-con content, and then they think that, okay, this is sex positivity because I would enjoy sex like this, I would enjoy being manhandled or having non-consensual sex in real life, without having the tools to identify what is fictional and what is real life, just because it's framed as a sex positivity without any context behind it. That can be problematic because that person has not decentered men in their life yet. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, totally, totally. Actually, I always love your takes on dark romance because I mean, like you mentioned, I'm a dark romance girly, and I see like all the people who are against like dark romance for valid reasons, of course. But I do think it definitely is a nuanced like conversation, and yeah, I love your nuance.
I I do not think that dark romance in itself is problematic. I also read some dark romance as well, but I think it can be a slippery slope when it's consumed by people who have not unpacked misogyny and
Yeah.
patriarchy. If they don't have the tools to do so, then it can be dangerous for them. Case in point, so I know that Twilight is not dark romance, but it's an example. So I read Twilight when I was very young, about 15, 16 years old. I have not deconstructed misogyny and patriarchy. I still held on to some ideas about what romance is, about what is romantic, that was problematic. So when I was reading Twilight without all of those tools behind me, I thought that having someone breaking into your room and watching you sleep was romantic. I thought that someone who was possessive and controlling and taking out your car battery so that you could not visit your male friend was romantic because he cares so much about you. I would have thought that the whole toucher and die trope, where literally the guy would go hurt another man for touching you or for looking at you, would be romantic. So without the tools behind me like that, I thought that all these violent tendencies were something that women would want in real life, right? And that's where it becomes problematic.
I perfectly get it. That's toxic as
Yeah.
fuck though. But like I definitely see where you're coming from because I think growing up on romance books as well. I
Mm-hmm.
romanticize a lot of things, and now with everything I know, with everything I've learned, everything I've unlearned, even when I'm enjoying like dark romance books, I know the limits. I know what is
Mm-hmm.
right. I can also acknowledge that what I'm reading is fiction. If I meet a man
Mm-hmm.
in real life who presents with any of these things that this character I seem to really, really like in a book presents with, I need to call the police. I need to run the
Yeah.
other way, because there's no fucking way I would want a man to insert the thing for analyzing people into my vagina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I read about those, like the books I read, it has like those things, the stalking. There's like, touch her and gets unalive, look at her, talk to her and gets unalive, and like all those very toxic and abusive. However, I have all the tools to realize that it's just fiction. In reality, that's, yeah, no, you better run, please. Like, it's nothing for you. And I think also for me, sex positivity stops serving women when women who are sexually liberated and women who are sexually open are seen as empowered, while women who decide not to like be sexually liberated are seen as prudes or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it's framed like that, we are also in some way or form oppressing women who have decided that their sexuality has limits or there are things that they would not do. The fact that you are sexually liberated doesn't make you more empowered than the woman who thinks that, they have limits when it comes to sex. The fact that you like fetishes and like kinks does not mean that you are more empowered than the woman who enjoys like vanilla sex or is a pillow
Mm-hmm.
princess. It's never that deep. When you start to
Yeah.
get that deep, then you need to step back and assess, oh, like, am I actually on the right path? Because yeah,
Yeah.
at that point you're just oppressing someone else.
Yeah, I think because if that is the yardstick that you're using to measure sex positivity and how liberated a woman is, then technically you're saying that Bonnie Blue is the most liberated woman in the world just
Right,
because she has
right.
sex with like thousands of men.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think secondly is also that consent is, when consent is just reduced to yes. So let's say for instance you meet a man, a very rich man who has like all the facilities, like everything, and you're from an average home, and this man tells you that, like, if you agree to be my wife and be a stay at home mom, I'm going to like uplift you from whatever poverty you are in. And this woman says yes, and we see it as, yeah, that was like, it's, I don't think that is sex positivity. And especially if this woman goes ahead to have like all kinds of sexual gains and things that she normally wouldn't do, I do not think we can qualify that as sex positivity, because in that instance we need to unpack the power dynamic in that relationship. We need to
Mm-hmm.
get context from that relationship. So if we are just going to limit it to, oh, she's living a great life and all she needs to do is do all the sexual things her rich white husband wants from her, then we are also watering down sex positivity. At that point it's no longer sex positivity, and it's not serving the woman, even the woman who is in it, because it's fake autonomy. She does not actually have the autonomy because something is being held over her. I don't know if I'm
Mm-hmm.
making sense.
No, no, you are. I think sex positivity is about owning your sexuality, which also means that it includes LGBTIQ plus people as well, because they have been told to deny their sexuality throughout history for so long. And sex positivity is about owning that sexuality.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. I If you're ever in a situation and then you are wondering, how do I know whether this decision I'm making is serving me as a woman, I found these like questions that can help, and can help you draw a line between, whether you are practicing choice feminism, which we are both very, very much against. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you need to ask yourself, who has more social power here in whatever situation you are in. You need to ask yourself, who takes on more risk in this particular situation or in this particular setting. And you need to ask yourself, who is expected to adapt, especially if you are dealing with a cis man as a cis woman, or like literally anyone at all. Who is expected to adapt? Who is expected to be uncomfortable at the expense of the other person? Then, when you answer these questions, it can help you decide whether whatever act you are planning to engage in or you've engaged in, whether it served you or it further oppressed and moved you far from the liberation of yourself and women as a whole.
I think that another thing to notice is that when it comes to a heterosexual couple, you come into the game, you come into the field. It's not a level playing field. So
Yeah.
when he is a cisgendered man, he's already up here, which means that, for example, one of your questions about who has more social power, immediately, even if you make more than him, you coming into that social power, he's already here. So if you make more than him, it's not like we start here and then he goes and then you go there, but more like he's already there from the get-go. So that is something that we have to keep in mind, is that socially, men and women already a blank slate, we're not equal.
I love that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
my next question for you, Kat, is, can your sexual desires feel good personally and so uphold harmful systems? I feel like this is something we've spoken about before. It comes across like in some of like our topics with like sex and sexuality. So yeah, can I know desire does not exist in a vacuum. I know that as a woman, there's patriarchy, there's misogyny, there's like, internalized misogyny, there's the need to please men, there's the need to appeal to the male gaze, there's the need for men in society to see you a certain way. That's why there's like the bad girl trope and like the good girl trope and all that. But when does your sexual desires, the kinks, the fetishes, and all that you have, when is it harmful? Even though personally or individually you can feel like, yeah, this feels good.
I think when your desire and when you feeling good stems from a place of a male center, from male validation. So it's when you think that you will feel good and feel worthy if a man desires you, if a man looks at you with interest, if a man feels good and then you feel good. And I understand that in a relationship, sometimes when your partner feels good, you also feel good because you like them, and vice versa. But when it is all about male validation, when it's all about I'm gonna please him, and that is where you hit the nail on the head. It's about I gotta please him, I'm a woman, I gotta make him happy, so making him happy will make me happy. It's a short term thing and it's about chasing male validation. So even though you feel good in the moment, it still hinges on what a man can give you, and that is very temporary, that is very fickle, and
Yeah.
that is something that is very, very detrimental to your power as a woman, because you're giving a man power to make you feel good or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. For me, I'm definitely not a vanilla girl. So a lot of times when I decide I want to try out something new, the I I take a step back, I sit with myself and try to assess. And I love feminism. I love how I'm learning about feminism because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's really helped me in assessing a lot of things, because maybe it's detrimental the fact that I would 80% of the time not do something sexual a man suggests. I only do what I want to do. And so if a man suggests it, I am going to not immediately say, yes, let's do this. Like a man comes to tell me, oh, let's go do a threesome. I'm not just going to jump at it. I'm going to sit with myself and assess, in this particular situation, am I going to benefit from it? Am I going to feel a certain way about it? Am I going to have to tolerate something that will probably not sit well with me? And after, I'll feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done it and all that. So there's a lot of questions I ask myself with like everything that I've learned since, like, getting into feminism and all that. And I've also come to the agreement that because something I like to do sexually feels consensual, or it feels pleasurable, or because I chose it, does not make it a feminist choice. It doesn't mean that I do not sometimes uphold harmful systems. I think I do, because I really, really like bondage. I love everything BDSM, and I know at like at face value there's nothing wrong with that, because however, I also have like an immense fear, because if I don't trust a man enough, there's no way I'm going to want to role play with that man, because then I'm putting myself in a very dangerous situation, whether I chose it or not. So I think it's okay to want to explore sexually, but as a woman, you need to ask yourself a lot of questions before you do things. And like Kat already said, if your reason for exploring sexually is always centered on what your man wants you to do, what will make your man happy, what will make a man, babe, he's just a fucking man. You are the
Yeah.
prize. Okay, you are the prize. Do what makes you happy. Do what serves you. Do what sits well with like your soul and your ideals and your ideas and your ideologies. Okay, let's stop centering men in the sexual parts of our lives everywhere. But I'll start with sex, since this is a sex positive topic. Do you have anything to add? I think I went on a rant.
No, I think that's a very good rant. Very good soapbox. I don't think I have a lot to add there, but I think what you said was really, really good. I completely agree with that.
Okay. So, moving on, what would an ideal sex positive feminism look like while we are ensuring women's safety, in your own opinion?
I think sex positivity feminism that is uplifting and that is good for all women in general, it has to be intersectional, because I know that a lot of times when people are talking about sex positivity, going back to what I said in the beginning, they think about white feminism. They think about the
Yeah.
fact that for some women in some countries, in some conservative countries, again, they have not even seen a vulva. And that is something that every time you tell a white woman, she's like, oh my God, really? Because even things like using a tampon is pretty normal, it's pretty common, right? But in my part of the world, most women do not use a tampon because we do not want to touch ourselves down there, because we have been taught to be ashamed of ourselves down there. So when it comes to sex positivity, white feminism ignores all of those nuances. They ignore that in some parts of the world, the oppression runs deeper than that. Sex positive needs to be intersectional. It needs to include things like, okay, what about child marriages that are so prevalent in many parts of the world, right? What about female genital mutilation? So
Mutilation.
it needs to be intersectional. We cannot just talk about white feminism, because there are many parts of the world that are not like that. And I try to be more mindful I try to be more critical of white feminism because I have been reading quite a bit about how white feminism has been failing us as women of
Yeah,
color. So I do
color.
want to bring
Yeah.
that in, that it has to be intersectional.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
reading Hood Feminism, right?
I already finished Hood Feminism,
Oh,
and
that was
I
quick.
did. Did you finish?
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
I
I think that
actually
was really
loved it.
interesting.
Yeah. Let's not get into that because I have.
I think I finished another book as well, that talked about white feminism. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, um, basically, we're gonna do an episode on that, on white feminism as well. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. And it also needs to take into account the fact that it's celibacy is also sex positivity. It doesn't
Yeah.
always mean that it's about having sex. It's also about masturbation. It's about the choice to not have sex at all. And I think I have lost track of what your question was about. But
My
okay,
question
let's cap it
was
at that. Let's cap it at that for now. I want to
okay.
hear what you think as well.
Okay, so just my question was, what would an ideal sex positive feminism look like while we ensure women's safety? So I loved your first statement that it has to be intersectional. That's very important because in an ideal sex positive world, we need to find a balance between like women's safety and the context of whatever situation they are in. And that context is where intersectionality come in. Because even when we take choice, we can't always just end at she consented to it. It always has to be what were the consequences if she said no to this particular thing? What would the consequences have been if she was able to push back on this request? Was her refusal going to be safe for her? Was there power difference in that situation? And then I think we as women collectively and as sex positive feminists need to also know that women should not be expected to perform pleasure for sex to be positive. Women will need to stop performing pleasure. Women should not be expected to be sexually adventurous. Not all women should be expected to be open minded about sex, and and even when, for example, even when we are talking about like the usage of tampons you mentioned in your culture as opposed to like white women, and the fact that some women or a lot of women in your culture have never seen their vulva as opposed to like white women, it shouldn't just end there. It's not just about saying it and then that's it, but also trying to figure out like what is the context? Why is it that there are women who do not think it's okay to look at their vulva or to use a tampon? So we need to like unpack all the context that are behind it, and not just like oh, that's just it and then we move on. And being sex positive does not also equate to urgency. It does not mean that whenever something is presented to you, you just say yes and then you go with it. It also means that you need to sit and assess like why you are making the decisions you are making. It's okay. You are allowed to be unsure, even if you think you're a sexually empowered woman, even if you think you're a sexually liberated woman. Sometimes it's okay. You are allowed to be unsure. You are allowed to say no to certain things. You don't always have to say yes just because people know you as the sexually liberated woman. I feel like there are sometimes, so because of the type of content I put out and like what I do, a lot of times I've had to end like talking to men because of situations like that, where a man will come up like an adventurous thing, and when I say, oh, I'm not interested, they go, oh, I thought you are open minded. I feel like that's actually manipulative because I don't want to do it. The fact that I'm open minded about sex and sexuality does not mean that everything goes for me. Like, babe, I'm picky as fuck actually.
Yeah,
Like,
as you should
let's
be.
not do Yes, let's not do that here. If it's not serving me, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it just because you assigned that I'm sexually debated, and so I should be open minded and do anything you want to do. Like, heck no. So yeah, I think I was going on a rant again, but I'm also going to cap it here.
I have also experienced the same thing as well, which is very funny to me because I talk about sex a lot, and sometimes I have been accused of chasing male validation. Like, oh, you're just saying this because you want male validation, because you want to have sex with men. And I'm like, babe, I don't like men, okay? All I want is for men to leave me alone. I don't want men to harass me. I don't want men to DM me. I would like for them to stop, please. Like, my goal in life is not to it's not to please men, it's to be a menace to men, it's to give men headaches. It's I do not want men to look at me and think, oh, I'm so happy looking at her. No, I want them to look at me and think, oh my god, I'm having a headache right now.
Yes, yes. So I think I'm extremely outspoken on my Snapchat. So like, if you're a man on my Snapchat, you know that, yeah, this is not a safe space for men. This is not a place where I cuddle men or anything. And then one of my close friends told me that the last time we went out and we made a video and she posted this on her snap, and a guy on her snap replied, "Oh, is that Gail?" I actually removed her from my snap because I did not like the things she posts. I'm like, well, period. I actually applaud you because I'm not here to please you. I'm not here to serve a man. I'm not here to make you happy. So if my content makes you uncomfortable, if me calling out rape culture and me calling out men's behavior, me calling out patriarchy and misogyny makes you uncomfortable, then yeah, you definitely need not to be in my followers. This space is not for you. I am not in the business of creating comfort for men. I'm not in the
Yeah.
business of creating a safe space for men. Hell no. Over here, you are going to need to sit in the corner and assess your decisions and assess the way you act towards women. So, yeah, get the fuck off my page.
Men
I'm getting
really
emotional.
overestimate their value.
Right, right. And because I don't know what that was supposed to do. Was I supposed to say, "Oh my god, who is that? I'm so sorry. Like, can you add me back? I'm going to change."
Can you add me back this person that I don't even know?
Yes, right, right. I'm so sorry. He's my value as a person and as a woman decreased just because he removed me from his snap. Like, ugh, police. So anyway, do you have any final takeaways for anyone who is going to listen to this episode?
I would say this conversation reminds me of two discussions. One is about plastic surgery. So I know that plastic surgery can be controversial because, on the one hand, some people would say, oh, I'm pro plastic surgery because I think that anyone should be able to do whatever they want with their body. I mean, it's their body. If they want to surgically enhance it, cosmetically enhance it, then it's their prerogative. Whereas the other camp, which I'm in, I think that decisions don't exist in a vacuum. Why
Yes,
would someone, we need to examine why a person would want to get lip fillers, for example, or why they would want to get Botox, or why they would want to get
Botox.
breast implants, right? If, let's say, because, okay, let's say when I was young, do you think little girls grew up if they didn't live if they didn't grow up in this kind of society that imposes beauty standards upon them, that women with bigger breasts are attractive, do you think that little girl would say, I want to grow up to have big breasts? No, because she would not have that idea drilled in her mind. So decisions do not exist in a vacuum. For example, with having big butt, with having lip fillers, especially from white women, it's about embodying, it's about fetishizing in a way black women
Yes.
in a safe, while they are in a safe space, because they do not experience the same discrimination and the same racism that black women would experience in that context, right? Like white women culture appropriate cultures with their hair, with their cornrows and all of that. They don't get berated, or they don't get discriminated at work because of their hair. So they're borrowing and they're capitalizing on other cultures. So things like that, beauty standards like that, cosmetically enhancements like that, they don't exist in a vacuum. Same way that sexual liberation doesn't exist in a vacuum, in the sense that
Yeah.
there's a difference between wanting to wear whatever you want and dressing in a way to seek male validation, and then saying that you want to dress sexy just because it's your body. So it's kind of like a difference between dressing sexy for yourself and being a Kardashian, for example, right? So, sorry, but also not sorry. So there's a difference there, right? There's a difference between capitalizing and also seeking validation from other people through your sexuality, through your body, and also on the other hand, dressing the way that you want, even if it's revealing for yourself and not chasing validation. So sex positivity here in our conversation also works in that context too.
I I don't have anything else to say. Honestly, can't summed it all up pretty well. And as always, thank you for joining us on this episode. And we will catch you next week on the next one. You can follow us on all social media platforms as Unholy Feminists on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also listen to us on all podcast apps: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, literally everywhere you want to listen to us, if when or if you are doing any chores. And we will catch you next week. Thank you for joining us, and bye.
Bye.